Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we return on the back of Spurs winning back-to-back games domestically. A win in the Premier League against Brentford. I know there were some fears, there were concerns from 26 seconds on, but it is the life of a Spurs fan. Don't panic. Always in control. Always going to be a win. And in the words of Ange Postecoglou, take a breath and do a bit of yoga. Right, on this panel, we're delighted to have three cracking, returning, regular guests to Last Word on Spurs. Broadcast extraordinaire Russ Williams is back in the building. Actor TJ Ramini finally returns. And the brilliant Marlon over at the Spurs Kings is in the house to guide and steer you through that 3-1 victory against Brentford in, of course, the Premier League. And what you've got to say in the end was a comprehensive win for Spurs. The stats from the game, for all you statisticians out there, 23 shots to Brentford 6, 10 shots on targets to Brentford 6. Flimmy Famous is going here. 5 keeper saves for Spurs, 6 for Brentford. 11 duels won in Spurs' favour, 6 for Brentford. This is where it does get a bit of a change. 58 touches in Brentford's box to 19 in the equivalent Spurs box. 347 completed passes from a Spurs perspective. Brentford edging that at 385. 82% pass accuracy for Tottenham, 81% pass accuracy for Brentford. Possession-wise, Brentford, believe it or not, actually slightly edged the game, 52 to Spurs' 47.8. And look how much Spurs' XG was up on this game, 3.51 to just Brentford's 0.58. So it felt, and it was certainly a much more impressive Spurs performance, one that we all hoped we would get after, of course, that win against Coventry just in the Cup. I'm going to open with Russ Williams to kick us off on this Last Word on Spurs. Russ, it was a much-needed league win for Spurs. Although, as I said, those first 22 seconds were a little bit of a concern to Spurs. Spurs fell behind. But to be honest with you, Postecoglou's team were excellent in large chunks of the game. Really important goals to the likes of Solanke, for Johnson. A deserved effort for man the match for James Maddison. How long have we been waiting for a man the match from James Maddison? Shaky day for Vicario. We'll come on to him. But overall, Russ, happy with the win? How important is that?
Yeah, I think you've got to be happy with the win. And I think we've all got to be happy that the first half performance, even though we went a goal down from a set piece again, but it was a brilliant volley, wasn't it, from Bryan Mbeumo. I thought the first half, everybody, it was as close as we've got in a first half to the first 10 games of last season. Nobody looked to go sideways. Nobody looked to go back. First thought, forward. And, they didn't get rattled by going a goal down, kept believing. And I thought the first half particularly, we were terrific. Brentford, a little bit back in it in the second half. And there was a period, wasn't there, with about 20 minutes to go where you're thinking, oh, please don't make it 2-2. And we got the third goal with Maddison. Solanke's off the mark for Spurs. I thought he played very well today. He's big. He's quite speedy. He is a nuisance and was in the right place at the right time. Big Dom, when he had a simple tap in. So he's off and running. And I thought overall, it was a really good first half, not quite so good second half, but 3 points, 2 wins on the spin. And Brennan Johnson, Rick, shoving one at all his critics who've been giving him a pretty inhuman time on social media, and it's never good to see. I think with players, we're allowed to criticise them. They know that they get criticised, but it's the level of criticism and abuse that sometimes is a little bit too over the top. So he played pretty well today. He's obviously got his head down. All in all, very good 3 points, but we've got to keep it going now. 2 wins out of 2. I said the other day that we need a string of wins. Well, we've got 2. Let's make it 3. It's not going to be easy at Manchester United, as we know. But we can do it. If we play like we played in the first half, very few teams, Rick, are going to want to play us.
Oh, man. Spot on with that. TJ, coming around to you. Love to have you back, mate. I want to say, look, on behalf of the whole Spurs community, I know it's been a difficult time for you, but I know you've felt the love of a lot of community, a lot of love from the community, definitely in these last few weeks. Look, as Russ has said there so eloquently, Ange Postecoglou's Spurs side really responded so well on the back of what I know for many felt like a defeat maybe in the week to Coventry, but we did edge the game. We did win the game, a reminder out there. But again, they responded ever so well to that deficit early on with an impressive display. As we mentioned, 2 wins now on the bounce for the first time this season. Again, is it a point now where we just need something to build on? This could be the perfect springboard for that?
Yeah, listen, I'm delighted with the performance today. And again, thank you, Rick, and thank you to all of the people in the Spurs community who were so kind and reached out and sent really loving messages, which meant an enormous amount to me and to my family. So thank you so much for that. I was really pleased with the display today and actually made a joke, like after they scored, after 26 seconds or 23 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever it was. We responded so well, and we responded as a team who are often on the ropes. We responded in the perfect kind of counter-punching fashion, which I was really pleased to see. Our shoulders didn't slump. We didn't lose an ounce of confidence. If anything, we gained all of those things. And I did make a joke on X to say, can we start 1-0 down every week? And I kind of meant it by the end, because my goodness, what a performance. We're absolutely electrifying. I'm sure we're going to go on and talk about individual performances. Maddison deservingly, Bentancur deservingly. I thought Kulu had a great game. I thought VDV had a great game. Romero as well. Sonny hit and miss, but for me, that's the best performance I've seen from Udogie in a very, very long time. He looked really comfortable. He looked really aggressive on the ball. I think the fact that he wasn't quite as inverted. Both him and Porro today, and again, just to all of those critics of Ange who say he never changes his tactics, they pretty much looked, I mean, not like Walker and Rose, but they kind of had the touchlines today. They were nowhere near as kind of in field as they typically are, or as Ange has typically played them thus far. And I think it really worked for both of them, particularly Udogie. Just having a little bit more space and time. I thought he was excellent today on both sides of the ball. He's a young man who showed terrific discipline and terrific work rate. And big up Big Dom as well. What a hard worker he is, man. Proper number 9. Like Russ said, a real handful. I wouldn't want to mark him. My goodness, what a lump. And he never stops coming at you. Just never stops coming. So I was delighted with the performance today. I'm delighted to be back on the show with such an illustrious panel. To these loving viewers and watchers and fans of this show who I hold very dear to my heart. So lovely to see you all.
Bless you, my man. Lovely to have you back. Miles, bringing you in. Look, wasn't the most cleanest of wins. There were a few, let's be honest about it, hairy moments for Vicario that we'll come on to in this game. But overall, a much needed and deserved win for Spurs. As TJ's picked up upon their, first Solanke goal, one for the excellent James Maddison, and 2 in a week for Brennan Johnson, which I know for many out there have felt very uncomfortable by the fact that he's taken on social media. What was your main takeaways from that, Marlon? How important is that win in the context of the season going into now, as you know, a busy period, Europe coming into play? It feels like this could be a really important win for a springboard.
I thought clearly today, I think everyone's mentioned this, how important Maddison is to this team and how he makes it tick, because that was probably his most impressive game that he's had so far this season. But that just shows you how important he is to everything that is part of this Ange system. And I just thought everything he touched, everything, his movement and everything was just excellent. And as TJ just said there, the interchange with him and Udogie, especially in that first half when Udogie used to win it back and then it was between him and Son, was just excellent to see today. And that's probably something we have been missing over the last few weeks. Dom as well. I have to say, right, I know we had Harry Kane, but the way he holds up the ball, like I can't even remember. Last strike I can even remember having like that was as close to the way he played with his back to goal was Berbatov, right? Because even Kane wasn't the best at holding it up, but Kane was good at other things, that thing. But Dom, yeah, he done literally. He was literally everything that touched. And I know that I was reading some things on social media, and some people were having a slight dig. But actually, if you actually look at his whole game, he helped everything out, and just the fact he got 90 minutes under his belt, and considering how he played against Coventry, it was just literally good to see. But no one has mentioned Bentancur today. Those 60 minutes in the middle of the park today, I don't think people realize how good it was. It was the interceptions, it was the way he was moving the ball quickly to Kulu and Maddison. And I just thought he was literally, especially the fact that Bissouma was back, and I was expecting Bissouma to play, but I thought Bentancur took that role, and literally I'd expect him to start at Old Trafford next week, because I thought he played excellent, and then Bissouma played well when he came on. So it meant that both of them could be great next week. But yeah, Bentancur was so good.
I do agree. I mean, look, I think we've all been waiting for a Bentancur-like performance like that for such a long time. We know that player's been there. I think, again, you have to take into account the injury situations that man has incurred since being a Spurs player. hasn't been an easy journey for him. And I just echo the words. I know TJ actually mentioned, I think, in his intro as well as you, Marlon, there. Great to see Bentancur at his best. I think that was his third game in, I think, what we're looking at, 6, 7, 8 days for Tottenham. So great to see him playing regularly. We know we've got this ban hanging over his head, which is a concern. But one thing, Russ, I do want to pick up on is that, look, can't get away from it. There was a lot, it felt, of pressure going into this game. And I wouldn't be fair if I didn't say that. It felt Ange has been slightly prickly in his pre-match presser. I think that's a man that to some degree was feeling a little bit of pressure going into it. So, I mean, what I would say is that I know there's been a lot of views and debates over the manager, which I know people think it's crazy to even have these questions after 4 or 5 games of a new season when he's bedding in, into his second year, that philosophy. What I want to say, because again, there's maybe this feeling around with myself that I've been unsure on him. And I think I have said that. For me, what I wanted to see in the second season was there's a learning of lessons. There is players that are really adapting to the way the manager wants to play. And I think what I can confidently say on that display for me is that he's got every single player on that pitch and whoever came on buying into what he wants to buy into from what I can gauge. I felt the players were very much 100% with him. They were playing for him. They were fighting for him. And I think, look, we can only call it as we see it here. And that's the thing with last one on Spurs. We don't want to fluff things up. We just want to give you the reality of where things are at. And it's not always nice. It's not always easy. But we want to speak our truths here. I mean, is it fair to say, Russ, that the best thing I think for me was the willingness and the quality to attack through central areas and actually create chances where in some games, Russ, let's be fair, we haven't looked like doing that. We let that killer instinct where today it could have all gone against us very early on. We went 1-0 down. We could have dropped our heads. But the great thing for me was how we came back. We showed that reaction, which was actually, I think, more impressive than had we gone 1 or 2-0 up. We went down so early on and reacted so well.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that particularly as I said at the beginning of the show, in the first half, the play was urgent. It was precise. It was a group of football players who actually suddenly remembered what they're supposed to do in accordance with their manager's instructions. And we started with the same 11 as we finished the game with, or started the game with, against Arsenal. We know what the result was there. Coventry wasn't good. You're right, Rick. He has been a little bit prickly. I would say slightly more than a little bit, actually. And you know what? Ange Postecoglou at times can be so human in the press conferences and so relaxed. But I think he understands that the stakes are high at this football club. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that Celtic is not a big football club, because in Scotland and in British football history it is. But there is an awful lot of expectation because we are a club that hasn't won anything for many, many years. And we know what he said this week, don't we? And he needs all of his players. The ones on the bench, when they come on, I thought they did pretty well in the second half. All these big players that he believes in and believe in him, there's got to be this sort of synergy to play a football game. The only player that I would say I hope we're not seeing the start of the decline with age, is Sonny. He is not the player that he was a season and a half ago. And I don't think he's injured. We know what he's done for our football club. We know that he's a brilliant player, excuse me. But recently his form has not been really at his level. And he's been playing out on the left where he prefers to play, of course. And I don't know what it is. Whether he's under the weather, whether he's lost a yard of pace. I personally think he has, but he's not quite on it. And that was the only slightly worrying thing from watching the game for me yet again. And it's not the first time this season or towards the back end of last season where we've discussed it on the show, his form, because when he's on form, everything he touches, it turns to gold and goals as well. But at the moment, it just seemed a bit shot shy, and I don't know. Hopefully, they can sort that out. But Ange knows he's got a big job, Rick, and as we've talked about privately and on this show, as a football club, we cannot keep firing and hiring managers. Sooner or later, we have to, stick our flag in the sand. And I've got a feeling that Ange Postecoglou is going to be the flag in the sand. And bloody good luck to him, by the way, because he's going to need it.
You know, it's interesting, Rush. You pick up on Sonny there. And look, again, stats are not always the thing to always follow. But I think now, on the back of that assist for Johnson, he's now got an incredible 63 Premier League assists after that assist for Johnson. He's now 3 behind the all-time record of 66, which is held by the legendary Darren Anderton. He now moves past Christian Eriksen. And interestingly, in that first half, he created more chances 5 in the first half than the whole Brentford team combined. And from what I understand, he's got the 3 games with assists so far. He's the more than any player so far this season. That's not poo-pooing what you've said there, Russ. I agree with you that we've not seen the Sonny that we've become accustomed to or used to in these last few years. And yeah, that could be a combination of things. Is it the fact with the system that he's had to play not only out on wing, he's had to play centrally as well. He's had to adapt where maybe, you know, if he was consistently playing out wide, that might have helped his game. We have to hope that guy will come back because let's be honest about it. When you look at Son's record for Spurs overall, that's a guy that's consistently delivered 15 to 20 GAs for most of the time he's been here. So whilst I agree with you, slight concern at the moment, we have to hope now over the course of the season, if Spurs are going to get back on track, you'd imagine Sonny being the figurehead he has been at Tottenham, he'll be leading that charge, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not saying we should drop him or anything. No. In fact, when we press high, he looks quick. It's when he gets up against defenders or running one-on-ones. He had a one-on-one today. A couple of seasons ago, 9 times out of 10, you know, he'd have scored. But he didn't today. But the team won 3-1. I mean, look, he's a top pro. Yeah. So he doesn't need the likes of me or anybody else to talk about his form. But we are fans, and we can only say what we see.
That's what you're here for. That's why I love you. We want you to keep on talking. Never stop talking, my man. We love you on here for it. TJ, I want to come over to you because you've been very steadfast in your loyalty behind Ange Postecoglou. I want to ask you what you've made of the last few weeks and in the build up to the season, because again, you know, we've not been lucky enough to have you on in the recent weeks. Has it been fair? Has it been justified? Have you been frustrated? Have you been uncomfortable by that? And when you look at a win like today, where, as I've said, for me, I think every player gave their absolute everything for him and left it out on the pitch. Does that eradicate the questions, or is it a case where these next few weeks we need to now back these up with consistent performances and go on a run?
I mean, I think in all honesty, for me, there's so little that I pay attention to, because we've said this before. It's the media's job, and I don't rubbish them for it. You know, that's how they make a living, to create rumor and to create drama. You're not going to sell any papers, or of course nobody buys papers anymore. You're not going to garner any clicks by saying everything is good and happy at Tottenham. I think the thing is that he's such a big character that he's actually, from him first arriving in England, and of course to Russ's point, of course, you know, Celtic are a massive club, but coming to a top 6 club, coming to one of the big 6 in the Premier League is an entirely different proposition. And so the amount of pressure, and of course the amount of financial pressure, it's not even comparable. It's not even close. And as soon as he arrived at Tottenham, he's so funny and charming and articulate and expressive. He's clearly a very intelligent man, not just footballing intelligence, but, you know, general intelligence. And he's got this wonderful, dry Australian sense of humor. And of course, you know, with that voice, the fact that he starts everything like, yeah, well, you know, mate, you know, starts everything just saying, yeah, you know, mate, you know, it's very appealing. And we don't have an Australian in the league. And so when we were doing well under him last season, you know, we started and we were unbeaten and we were top of the league and all that kind of thing, we loved him. And then when he started to topple, we loved him because he's always going to give you a great soundbite. So they are going to pursue somebody like Ange. And if he is a bear that reacts when you poke him, they're going to poke him. The only surprising thing for me is that he does react, which then says to me, he is reacting intentionally as well. He doesn't mind bad press. He doesn't mind that at all. I think he's a grown up. He's a very mature individual. And so as far as the criticism and everything, I don't really pay it much mind. When you hear people saying, oh, he's lost the dressing room and stuff, it's just like, where's that coming from? Are you in the dressing room? Oh, like I'm friends with the kit man. And no, that's always nonsense. And to your point, Rick, I think when we can kind of gain even a moderately accurate insight into how players are feeling about a manager is how they perform for that manager on the pitch.
Absolutely.
And there is no way on earth that any one of those players doesn't live and breathe and die for Ange Postecoglou right now. Maybe that will change in the future. I don't think it will. And again, to Russ's point, and Rick, you and I were talking about this, on the phone this week. We're not going to get another manager. What's the point? Who are we going to go and get? And we just cannot be that club. We have to give him a chance. And again, not to bang on about Arteta, but 8th, 5th. And in his second season of 8th, they were in 15th. They were in 15th position, like relegation form, and they still stuck by him. And obviously, they've given him loads of money, and he's done okay.
Yeah,
he's done all right. So I think Ange could do really, really well if we just give him time and patience. And the most important thing is, for my money, the players feel the same, and really, that's all that matters.
Yeah, man. Marlon, bringing you in. We talk about big games for big players. I think, going into, if you said to a Spurs fan, what would be the perfect day? Many would say, well, Solanke to get a goal, Johnson to keep on scoring, and Maddison on the score sheet. And we got all three of those. Again, I think Solanke worked so hard for the team. He got involved in all phases of the game. Of course, that first goal goes a long way to helping him. You feel confidence-wise. You had Brennan Johnson responding to those critics with a big week for him on the pitch. I think, again, when you look at what the week he's had, arguably for many, you'd say he's had one of the worst weeks. That's ended up being a great week for him. Back-to-back goals, great for his confidence. And someone like James Maddison, who we speak about often here, James, he's a player we really want to see run games. And the reality is he was electric for that entire game, and he was at the heart of everything so good for Spurs. And if he can continue that level, he'll be such a huge asset for this football club. I mean, would you agree in terms of the scorers and the nature of the figureheads of that game? We couldn't have asked for anyone more to have put the ball in the back of the net to give us real confidence now ahead of a really busy schedule for Tottenham.
No, you're right. And with Solanke, I remember when I came on against Everton, and I said the only thing that I was disappointed with is that he didn't play, because obviously we were a lot like today. We were creating chances. We were doing so well against Everton, and it would have been a perfect start. But when Maddison took that shot and it fell to Solanke's feet, and I was like, just put it in, and he did. I was like, this will get him up and running, because a lot of people, in the summer, wanted Tony over Solanke. There was other strikers they wanted instead, but Spurs went with Solanke, and a lot of people was like, I'm underwhelmed, but we'll see how he does. And do you know what? It was the perfect response today, right? Just to get on the score sheet, second game at home, and just literally get down to it, because at the end of the day, we're going to need these goals this year. Look, you've seen how we've been playing in the last few games. We've had most of the ball. We haven't created much. It's been, and there's not been a lot up top. But like, he's back to goal. Like I said earlier, it was absolutely brilliant to see. And actually, I thought with Sonny today, I thought Sonny didn't play as bad as people think. And the reason why I say that is I don't think we're going to see the Sonny that we did see 2 years ago. And there was a great point that TJ also made at the beginning was Udogie played more left, which meant that Son could come inside, which then meant that's where his 2 assists came from today, right? And that's like everyone, like, we're not going to see the Sonny shooting outside the box, going beyond people. I think that's just not his game at the moment. He like Russ said, he's not the same Sonny as a couple of years ago. He is going to slowly bring it back now. It's just depending on how we're going to use him going forward. Regarding Brennan Johnson, though, look, great response. Everything that's happened to him was a great response and everything. But I thought today there were certain parts of the game that he slowed it down again, and I was a bit worried. There was a couple of times he got it on the right-hand side, and he, instead of running at the man, he didn't take him on. He missed that big chance later on. And for me, with Brennan Johnson, it's a case of I just need to see a little bit more from him, right? It was he took his goal so well today, and I was happy for him when it went in, right? But if you look at Wednesday's game, if on the whole, it was kind of, he didn't really play well, and he just got in at the end and he scored, which was a brilliant finish. And I think that's been the case with Brennan Johnson. He phases in and out of the games, and if he's not scoring and assisting, it really does look bad on him. But if he's scoring and assisting like he did last year, where he was doing that, it kind of thing. So I just need to see a little bit more from him. That's all it is, right? I'm not going to sit here and criticize him like everyone has done in the past few weeks. I don't think it's deserved.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was parts that he did frustrate me when he got the ball on the right. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but he took his goal well. He got in some great positions as well.
Yep.
Right. But the big key thing in this system that I noticed Ange wants him to do is get him behind and lay it across the box. He didn't do any of that today. Right. There was a top chance he got it on the right, hit the first man and things like that. But let's see how the next few weeks go. But as for James Maddison, you can slowly see in each of the games, right? He's been quite influential, but he's been getting better and better as the games have been going on. And even against Arsenal last week, he wasn't as bad as people made out. It's just that it was hard. Look, at the end of the day, to break down Arsenal's hard. But today, I thought it was James Maddison we saw in those first 10 games last year.
Totally agree.
It was literally everything he touched. I don't know if it's because Bentancur and Kulu were in there as well, which helped him out as well. So the pressure weren't all on him because he had Kulu next to him. But I think like where you can see that he's now starting to pick up form, and actually over the next few weeks is going to be very key to see, because even when he came on against Coventry on Wednesday, he started as soon as he started to dictate the play, and that helped us with going forward as well, and helped when Kulu came on, and it was just like Bentancur, Kulu, and Maddison that ended the game against Coventry. And I thought Kulu when he came on Wednesday was brilliant, and again today they seem to be forming a partnership in that middle between the three of them, and I think going forward it could be the three that we could end up seeing later on down the line, getting us into these big games. Look, when we play the better sides is going to be the big question at the moment, and I say that with a pinch of salt because we have to remember Brentford had 9 first team players missing today, right? So, and that is massive, and right, and you saw most of the time when we were putting pressure on them at the back when they were playing it around, they kept making the mistakes, and that's exactly what Ange was all about. So, but yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant from the boys today. But Maddison, for me, Maddison's going to get man of the match. He was absolutely, and he was working as well, working tirelessly, and you could tell that last week against Arsenal, where a lot of people were criticizing him, he just wanted to get a good game under his belt where people go, oh yeah, this is why we signed Maddison.
Marlon, you know what? I know most people saying it, they're just nodding away. They can't really disagree with what's being said. The LS is a top draw. Look, we'll go to some of Ange's comments in the post-match presser. Ange, obviously, for him, as we've discussed, big win ahead of what we've got to say. You know, we're mid-month now, but it feels the next big months, you know, with Spurs and the games they've got are coming really, really thick and fast. Ange said it wasn't the ideal start, obviously, but to be honest with you, it was like it never happened. The boys just went out there and did their job. That's all we wanted to do. We knew Brentford, they were going to be pretty aggressive with and without the ball. We loved that part of the game. We thought if we really brought our own energy and intensity that we know we can, with and without the ball, we could cause them a lot of problems, and we did. We were relentless the whole game and fully deserved the win. He was asked the question as to whether there was more urgency and did that early Brentford goal help? And he went, look, I'll be honest with you. I felt that in the first half against Arsenal, it was quite evident they were trying to slow the game down. I thought we contributed towards that, but especially with the restarts and the way we spoke about it in the week, obviously with the opposition, they'll try and stop us doing that. But from my perspective, the more times we're in control and we play at our tempo, it's better. It was highlighted last week that even though they were on top of the game against Arsenal, we kind of let them off the hook a couple of times. But slowly, with the game being brought down to a level, I thought it was a lot better as a whole in this one. We had more urgency without rushing around our football, which helps us. He was also asked about the performance as a whole in terms of the intensity. And of course, with Maddison winning back the second balls, which resulted, of course, in a couple of goals. He went, look, that's been a great thing all year round from what I've seen. I think there's objectives that measure that would say we're probably the best in the league and one of the best in Europe in terms of pressurising. And I thought that would be so important. You saw Brentford, you saw how they try and play out from the ball, which is an opportunity for us to try and win it in high areas. And I thought we did. We created some unbelievable opportunities from that, including the first goal. And we probably could have got a couple of more. He was asked also about the team struggling to capitalise in the key moments against Arsenal and how with Maddison popping up with a third, is that the big difference? Ange responded and said, look, I mean, we're still winning at that point, but in terms of the game, it's what we've been missing. We spoke about it during the week that for all of our dominance, we haven't really got the rewards for our play, and you need to. You saw that even in this game at 2-1, that a couple of chances, and it could have actually resulted in being 2-2. But I thought for our dominance, we deserve so much more. So you need to stay alert. But I thought it was an excellent goal to cap it off from Madders. The three leaders contributing for this club, Romero, Sonny and Madders. That is what you're looking for in those key moments. Big words there from Ange. And again, so important, I think, that he emphasises the point of the leaders in this squad, the Romeros, the Sonnys, the Maddisons. Because if Spurs are going to get anywhere near what we as fans want the ambition to be, it's going to be those players that are driving us. So what we are going to do, we are going to squeeze in, if we can, our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. I'm joined by broadcaster extraordinaire Russ Williams, actor TJ Ramini, and Marlon over at the Spurs Kings. We've got nearly over 4,500 of you watching us live. As always, can't thank you enough. for all your support for Last Word on Spurs in what we say is a big, big period for Tottenham, of course, in the season. A reminder for those out there that are not aware, we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. You can go right now to get your discount for Nord at nordvpn.com/LWOS. That gives you an extra 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. It will be great for you wonderful people that are traveling in and around on Spurs' European journey, which is hopefully going to result in Bilbao. You can watch your favourite shows, favourite TV programmes, and of course it means you just got to change your location settings wherever you are to still get your favourite football, your favourite soaps, your favourite dramas. No, I'm not going to discuss about Love Island. No, I'm not going to take you through all the documentaries. Go and watch some of TJ's wonderful shows. Go and watch some of the wonderful stuff you can. NordVPN.com/LWOS. I know before you ask, Russ Williams is not looking at the next Love Island series in any real hope.
No, I'm not remotely, Rick, obviously.
Thank you, Russ, for clarifying that. If our listeners and audio needed that to be clarified. In terms of the lineup for this one, Spurs, to try and calm things down, they did make another 8 changes, but it was maybe the 8 changes everyone did want to see in terms of players coming back in. We knew beforehand that Ethan Pinnock had began training following his groin injury. He was back on the bench as Rodrigo Bentancur started 3 games in 6 days. And I think we've all got to say that he's looked better for having 3 in 6. We knew beforehand that Postecoglou lost Wilton Odobert to a hamstring injury that kept him out for a while. But Timo Werner, despite being fit, was only on the bench, with Mikey Moore getting a spot. And notably, Ben Davies, the senior player, to miss out. So that Spurs team did read Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Kulusevski, Bentancur, Maddison, Johnson, Solanke, Son, with the bench of Forster, Spence, Dragoshin, Gray, Sarr, Basuma, Bergvall, Werner, Moore. I want to ask you, TJ, 24 seconds it took for Brentford to unlock the Spurs back door. Bryan Mbeumo firing home. You look at the fact, I think Brentford announced for the 2nd game in a row scored inside the first 30 seconds. They did the same thing at City a week before. How concerned was you by that? You know, the worst possible start where there's a lot of questions around Spurs at the moment in general. Any concern we'd find our way back, and how concerning was you with the nature of the goal?
I wasn't concerned at all, to be honest. It genuinely made me laugh. Genuinely, I had a lol moment. And you got to consider it was like 7 o'clock in the morning for me, right? Watching these games, sitting on the sofa, under a blanket, chuckling. Texting my boys back home, and my brother said, "Listen, I know it's a cliche, but I'd rather the first minute than the 91st minute." And so it was the if I was going to be worried, it would be do we react? But we reacted so instantaneously. I didn't kind of have a second to be bothered or concerned or scared, and that's why I said, "Can we start 1-0 down every week?" I thought, look, is this the most complete display of football we've seen under Ange Postecoglou? I'll open that up to the panel and, of course, to our fabulous viewers and listeners. To me, it was. And again, it's really important to talk about tactical changes that he made, because they were so glaringly obvious and apparent, and they made a huge difference. Like, yes, Brentford do play expansive, play out the back football, which perhaps is going to work for us, going to play to our strengths. But listen, both of the chaps and you yourself, Rick, have talked about how effectively we pressed today. I think Solanke's a big part of that. Sonny also has plenty of gas left in the tank and will go and shut people down. But I also want to mention, 2 things. I want to mention the fact that we're now a much younger team than we used to be. People talk about wanting a high press because it's exciting, right? It's an exciting thing to witness. But I don't think enough people give credence or acceptance to how difficult it is to do that. Look at these young kids. And so they've got energy for weeks. They're clearly really fit. There's a lot of chatter about Marcus Rashford at the moment, and comments that his manager made about his personal life outside of the game. He scored 2 goals in his cup game, and he's back on the bench today. There's no doubting his ability, right? He's a young man and rapid and can score goals and all that kind of thing. But there are questions publicly from his manager that he's saying about his lifestyle. All of these young men who have come into this club, really young men, nobody is questioning their lifestyle. Nobody's saying, oh, they're going out clubbing and they're doing this and they're, flying down the M1 in a Lamborghini Aventador, with their arm around a stripper, on their way to a P. Diddy freak-off party. Like nobody, just a quick cultural reference for all the young people out there, just to show that Ramini's got his finger on the pulse.
Just to remind
I've got you covered. I've got you covered. Listen, it's all happening around the corner.
If there was any doubts, you've got it.
Exactly. And so I think that's really important to mention. The second thing that I wanted to mention was big up Kulusevski, man. Big up Kulusevski. He just looks so solid in that central position. He looks much more to me than a number 8, than a number 7 or a number 11. And I just think he's done so well in there. He's such a fearless player. He's so strong. He's so difficult to get a hold of. He can turn either way. And again, he wasn't bought to play centrally. Ange has put him there and adapted him. I know he plays for his country in a more of a kind of a number 10 position. Ange has said, listen, man, you're going to be like a kind of free roaming box to box number 8. And I think he's done exceptionally well, man. He is a player that we can hang our hat on and rely upon. And I think that's massive for him and for our manager.
Yeah, I do agree on that. I mean, look, as we mentioned, it only took 24 seconds for Bryan Mbeumo to fire home, given far too much space at the time by Mickey van der Ven to crash his shot home. But you know what? Let's discuss the positives. We've not had many positives on here in the last few weeks. Let's discuss positives, Russ. We've got some bucket loads of positives coming. Dominic Solanke. First goal for Tottenham, slotting home that loose ball after Maddison's shot was saved. Maddison actually did really well to intercept the pass, it has to be said, for the goal. And I think the one word I would describe the look on Solanke's face was not only joy, but relief. Relief from him, relief in the stands for those that can see this clip here, because I think he worked so hard for the team. He got involved in all the phases of the game, of course, getting his first goal. He spoke to Match the day after the game and said, look, to get the win here meant a lot for all of us, but we had some great performances to the start of the season, but we haven't managed to get that match that we so wanted, but this was the one. We did that. And Ange said after the game, look, Dom's worked so hard in terms of his match fitness. You saw that at the end. He was out of gas. We wanted to take him off a bit earlier, but we need that third goal to kill the game off. But he was so good again. I think he's been good in every game he's played for us. As you said, strikers love scoring goals. And yeah, it's a great moment for him to score his first goal, particularly at home. But aside from that, it was a really strong performance. I thought he led the line really well. So important for us in terms of his link-up play, because we knew they'd go aggressive on a man-to-man marking. And he was going to have to hold up the ball really well. And I thought he did that excellently. And Marlon made a great point there, Russ, for you to follow on from earlier, that we've not had too many strikers that can really hold the ball up and bring players into play. I mean, Kane did do that. Berbatov did do that as well. But do you get the feeling with Solanke, if we get even better players around him, this could be a really exciting time as a Spurs fan?
Well, look, he holds the ball up. He's a proper number 9. We all want him to succeed. He's off the mark. He presses, he can hold the ball up, he gets in the right positions. And at the end of the day, Rick, you're absolutely right. Ange Postecoglou and his regime is going to live and die by the quality of the players that come in to the football club. Ultimately, that is what is going to determine how successful he's going to be. Look how keen he was to get Solanke in, identified him quite a few months previously until we signed him. So Ange Postecoglou knows for his system the sort of players that he wants. And he's brought in Vicario and he's brought in Archie Gray and, young players for the future. But you do need the finished article. We've tried, as we all know in the past, to buy the so-called finished article. And for a club like Spurs with a big debt, you've got to spend your money well. And that isn't on the likes of Tanguy and Ndombele and letting Giovanni Lo Celso go for £5 million, who incidentally got a couple of goals for his new club in Spain. And I think Ndombele scored as well. So there is over £100 million pounds.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's what, we have to spend our money wisely. I'm beginning to sound like a Labour politician or a Tory politician there. But we've got to be clever because we've got a very good bunch of players, some great youngsters. I still like to see a couple of finished articles come in. And you're right, Rick, a couple of the right players to support Dom Solanke, and he can eclipse everything that he did at Bournemouth and wherever he's been. But at the moment, I think just the way it is, he's not going to find that so easy. Having said that,
Yeah.
very positive. I don't think it was the great Spurs performance, perhaps that TJ was alluding to, because to concede a goal from a set piece, I think Romero probably was sleeping a bit, to not mark very well when we're under pressure, to give attacking players from the opposition too much space to move into.
Yep.
These are the sort of problems that are going to cause us problems, and it could explain why against the so-called bigger clubs, our record still is not great. But look, who wins on the bounce? Very positive, but I think by being positive, you also got to be aware of the stuff that we need to improve on. That's all. That's
100%.
all I'm saying.
This is what the show's about. You know, if we were sitting here just discussing positives, we'd be so much happier.
Yes,
we would be so much happier. But at the same time, we've got to give the balance on the show, because again, people will think, well, what's going on with these guys? Where's the balance gone? We're always searching for that balance. You lovely people, you tell us about the balance every week on it. I've got to say, you really, really do. Talk about balance. Actually, that first 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. Spurs did initially really well to respond from obviously that setback. We had Sonny after the goal going very, very close before a great save from Flekken. Johnson then dragged it wide. And to be fair, it was that opening period in 11 minutes where Brentford could not deal with the relentless nature of Tottenham's press. They had 7 shots on goal in the opening 10. Solanke put Son away. He rounded the keeper, Flekken, but the keeper just got a little touch to it and sent him away. And he also found Kulusevski, but the Swede shot was blocked. I mean, it was a really, really attacking display from Spurs, and one that the crowd were really getting behind in that opening 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then it was really crucial. We talk about timing of games, timing of goals. Come over to you, Marlon. Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson, as we know, it's not been an easy week for him. He's taken a lot of stick on social media, online. Took on his man, smashed it into the bottom corner. Maddison again winning the ball back. Sonny running away, picking out Johnson. A superb finish. It sparked a reaction in that stadium, and it was followed by there's only one Brennan Johnson chance around the stadium. And this is a man that, you know, for those that can see the celebration there for our watching audience, that he puts his finger to his lips in a shushing celebration, but he does smile. There's a huge cheer, as I said, when his name is read out. It's 2 goals in 2 names for Brennan, who we know has had to deactivate his Instagram account following abuse, which is really, really sad to see. But Marlon, he's a young player. He's 23 years of age. Just how important is that for maybe fans to remember? I think he had 15 GAs last season. And I will remind people, you know, we've had some great players here that haven't got off to a great start. Clearly a kid, as we can see, struggles from confidence. Is that fair to say?
No, and I do agree that he does struggle with confidence. And sometimes I feel like some of it's on Ange as well, because there's certain times that Ange keeps him on longer than he should when he's not playing well. And then it's all us Spurs fans looking at going, why is this person come off and not this person? So Ange's subs can sometimes cause an issue. And I always feel like that he sometimes just leaves Brennan Johnson on slightly longer. However, today was not that occasion. Look, at the end of the day, there was 2 things I noticed after he scored that goal. One was the players. The players all went to him. I think Maddison pointed at the crowd and pointed at him as well, I believe, at the same time. And, you know, they all went up to him and was like, yeah, look, we're with you. Don't worry, right? So after, like, I think there was a comment earlier about, is this team behind Ange? It was something like that where you knew the team was still united. But the second bit was they showed Ange on the bench, right? And the broad smile that came on his face to go, actually, like a proud dad to go, I knew he'd get through this, right? I'm glad he's got his goal and everything like that. So it was like, as a response, you couldn't have asked for anything better, right? And like, look, I said earlier, there's other bits part of his game that, you know, I was disappointed with, but at the end of the day, it was parts of today that I was glad to see him get on the ball, be more confident. Because as soon as that goal went in, you saw the confidence try and go through him as well. So he started to believe in himself. And I think, yeah, he had 2 chances later on, but those chances weren't falling to him a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of games ago, to be honest. So you can see now, look, as long as his teammates are behind him, then he can push on and move forward with this football club. Because at the end of the day, they're the people that need to trust him more. Forget the fans for a second. It's his teammates, the 10 other players that are out there on that pitch. If they keep giving him the ball and they believe, and they're getting in the box when he's putting in balls, they believe in him. So, you know, you got to give him credit to a certain degree, but he can't. Hopefully, he doesn't just sit on his laurels, and he will try and improve over the next couple of weeks and get better and better and start doing what he came in for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, because his assistant goals last year, even though everyone was saying, "Oh, it was this, that, and the other," his assistant goal last year statistically was actually very good. So,
very good. Yep.
So hopefully he can start going on a run now, especially if Maddison's back. I think the whole team plays better, so it helps him as well.
Yeah, lovely words actually on that point, Marlon. And you know what? Ange said after the game, Brennan's had a top week. He's scored in the cup to get us through, scored the winner, and he's got a fantastic goal in this game to get us ahead. And he was a real threat all the way through. He's in a bit of a tough period, let's be honest about it. And sometimes that gives you perspective about what's important. And what's important to Brennan is that he's a much-loved teammate. And like I said last week, he works so hard every day. I've got no doubt to make a big impact for our club. I had my say on the social media stuff and all that stuff during the week. But anyone who watches Brennan play, if they think he doesn't give everything, he can, I have got no time for that. He gives everything for the club. He gives everything for his teammates as well. And for me, every footballer, you've got to go through difficult moments. And he's handled this period ever so well. I think, as I said, it gives you that perspective that when the next difficult moment comes, inevitably, he'll come through it. And I'm sure he'll know what's important to him. Can I say, TJ, to give you opportunity to speak out Brennan Johnson, you were very defensive of him on social media actually during the week. I know that you've found that very difficult to understand about how any kind of, I'm not sure they are fans, can I be honest with you, who are deciding to abuse a player who is not only one of our own, but he's wearing our badge, representing the football club. I wouldn't go as far to say they are our fans of the football club, but how uncomfortable has that been to see the nature that a guy has almost got to close his world? And what I mean by close his world is close his social world up because of the abuse. It's just not acceptable, is it?
No, it's utterly horrific. And again, like for me, social media is purely about happiness and laughter. Like I don't post political things. I never post anything negative. That's just not what it is for me. Obviously, I'm an older person. I'm not in my teens or in my 20s. Perhaps, it's more significant in a younger person's life than it is for somebody of my age. However, he is a young man. He's 23 years old. And so for somebody like him, I would imagine, I don't know him, of course, but I would imagine that his social media account is very important. And to Russ's point earlier, a lot of these guys understand, listen, you're professional footballers and people take their football very seriously. That's why we're here giving up our time. That's why you create the show, Ricky. That's why these thousands of people follow it so diligently. And of course, I've said this before, football is the biggest thing we as a species, as human beings, have ever created, ever. It's bigger than any band, any actor, any god, anything. Football. More people follow it than anything else on earth. So yes, the professional exponents of this game are going to cop praise and they're going to cop criticism. However, the level of threat, the level of malevolence, the level of violence, the level of aggression, it's just completely unacceptable. And I do like to think, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Ricky, so kindly, so many people reached out to me to offer their condolences and love and support. So I do hold our fan base in a particularly cherished place in my heart. And so I would really like us to try to be better. Of course, if you feel that somebody isn't putting in an effort or something on the pitch, then we can call them out. But to go after somebody with aggression and violence and malevolence like that is completely unacceptable. However, I also want to talk about the positives. Like you said, Ricky, that's who I am, right? Yeah, so I thought he was really effective today. It was a beautiful goal. For me, where he needs to improve, to Marlon's point, like he was so effective when he was at Forest, where I think he's most effective is when he's got green grass in front of him. So he's so quick, right? And he's a clever player. You often see him pointing. Those players that are running forward and they point like where they want the ball. He'll do that, kind of like a linebacker or a wide receiver in American football. Like they'll run a route and then kind of cut left or cut right. He's really clever at doing that, at losing his marker. Where he needs to improve is if he does have somebody marking him, he needs to get better at beating that man and whipping a ball into the box or an effort on goal. But I think he's got so much potential. I want to big up Kulu again. I know I just gave him a big shout out, but I also think that by Kulu coming centrally, he takes a lot of players with him. So Brennan Johnson or even Sonny on the left or whoever it is on the left only has to be one guy rather than two guys. And so to Marlon's points, I can see Maddison, Bentancur and Kulu being our favoured central midfielders moving forward. I thought they were a very, very effective triumvirate today. My worry, of course, is about this ban that is apparently coming Bentancur's way. I have thoughts and opinions on that as well, but perhaps we'll talk about that at another time. But delighted for Brennan Johnson, and also 60,000 fans singing his name. So the haters they're a minority, and I think that's important to say as well. And Big Lee was at the game today, Macca, and he was again talking about the love that we showed Johnson today at the stadium. So I think that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, totally agree on that. Lovely word there, TJ. Going on in terms of the game itself, the yellow card for Mickey van der Ven after a sliding tackle in which he won the ball. I mean, Ange couldn't believe it. And then there was tempers boiling over on the touchline. Thomas Frank enthusiastically applauding the yellow card for Mickey van der Ven, which then Ryan Mason took real umbrage with. Matty Wells then joined him before Ange told his senior assistant to sit down. A bit of a much ado about nothing. But there was almost a complete mess. 2 messes from Vicario in this game. The one of them where he dilly-dallied on the ball and was dispossessed, only to then half get his hand on it to the floor and then save the follow-up shot with his thigh. I'm going to come on to Vicario in a second because I'm conscious of time that we're going to discuss the second into a bit more detail. But look, again, he got away with it to some degree, but it was a big mistake. And there were, like you say, 2 let-offs for Spurs in terms of that moment. And you're going into a game where half-time, I mean, credit to Michael Dawson on the site, the Soccer Saturday panel, he said, Spurs could be 5-1 up, but it was almost 2-2. It's like if you want to know a quote of supporting, quote of supporting Tottenham, that is the greatest quote that you will go to. I hate to say your grave as a Spurs fan, that you could be 5-1 up or it could be 2-2. I mean, what an absolutely basket case of a football club to support when you're hearing that. But it was a brilliant first half. The great response to going behind. We've been quick, decisive with the ball, creating lots and lots of chances. Some would say maybe that's one of our best halves under Rand so far in terms of the way we showed that response, the ascendancy to really, take the game to Brentford as well. And as I said, apart from that first half with Vicario leaving that hairy moment, I think we all knew the second half there was work to do. We've touched upon the way Sonny was always a threat. He grabbed his assist. I think we all keep saying this point with Sonny. We know we can see more. We know we need more. And we'll hope, of course, we've now run of games. And the fact he's now been switched to his favoured position on the wing rather than centrally, we'll get that from Sonny. There was some lovely interplay between Maddison and Udogie before the former player in Kulu was denied by the goalkeeper. Again, Maddison really the heartbeat of Spurs going forward in that second half. And I think TJ and Marlon have both touched upon this already, as well as Russ says, is that Bentancur probably, I would say, that's been his best performance since the ACL injury. He was simply everywhere. He was snapping into tackles. He was playing through the lines. He was getting forward as times went on. And, it's just a shame, as TJ says there's this domestic ban hanging over him, Russ, to bring you in, because I'd be very surprised, Russ, to not let this take over the show if we are not losing for a sustained period because of that nature of the incident, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be 6 games, could even be 12. It could be slightly more than 6. And it's going to be a big loss for us, but somebody else is going to have to step up because we have the squad. And, that's what you have a squad for. Transfer window's closed until January. And he's going to be a big loss. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And he did run the midfield, obviously substituted the second half. But just to go back, Rick, if I can, to Vicario, he needs, I said it, I think a couple of programs ago, in my opinion, he needs competition, serious competition. I prefer it when he stays on his line because he's a great shot stopper. That save that he made the second half, instinctive, absolutely fantastic. But some of the balls coming into the box, the flapping and what have you, and obviously, was it handball? Yes, it was, in my opinion, that incident as well. And we're seeing this time and time again. And I think we do need to have some form of competition for him. I mean, as far as his national team is concerned, Italy, Donnarumma could go out and have the biggest pizza ever, drink 2 pints of Sambuca, go out clubbing till 5 a.m. They kick off at 1 p.m, Italy, and Donnarumma would still be in goal because Vicario's never going to challenge him the way he's playing at the moment. We want that to change, and I'm sure he does. He's got the passion, but we've got to get a little more confidence into his game because when we don't mark up at set pieces, as we've seen time and time again, him being confident and coming to get the ball could actually save us losing some games. So I think it really is very, very important.
I'm right in saying, Russ, with that analogy, he's nowhere near competing anytime soon for his country as things stand, right?
No, I don't think he is realistic. I mean, Donnarumma's an amazing guy. I don't really care about the Italian national team. I like watching them play. I think Italy's a great football country. But we're talking about Spurs, and I think Ange will know that we have to have some competition for him that's quality competition. That's no disrespect, for example, to Fraser Forster, who made a couple of brilliant saves in the first half, low down against Coventry. But I think we've got to look for a younger model. Sorry, Fraser, if you're watching.
I'm stunned that Spurs have not looked in that summer window and felt they've got enough in terms of that goalkeeping department to survive. Just to bring some context as to what Russ was speaking about there with the second incident from Vicario, it was a real moment to forget. And, you know, for those that weren't at the game or weren't aware of what actually happened with that incident, we've got some stills here for those that are watching this live. Now, he comes out to claim a cross ahead of Damsgaard, but spills it and actually slips twice at the ball, seemingly outside the area. No free kick is given, but yellows are given to Christophe Aguerd and Thomas Frank. Now, Brentford cannot believe it. And for those that, again, have had the pleasure to watch this back and see it, and, you know, VAR, I don't believe actually checked the incident, but it's clear that Vicario does handle the ball outside of the area. And after the game, Ange Postecoglou was asked actually about that incident. This is what he said. It's a 30-second clip. This is what Ange said about that.
Hi, Ange. Just wanted to know, from your perspective, what happened when Vicario appeared to, I think, touch the ball outside the box. What did you see?
I think I saw exactly what you saw.
Well, I'm not too sure what I saw. That's
Well, yeah, well, I'm not. What makes you think I'm sure?
Well, I'm not too sure. Maybe you were closer to the pitch than I was.
I was closer to the pitch. Okay. You were higher up, though. Yeah, so... Okay, so maybe I saw exactly what you saw. Thank you.
I've got to be honest here, guys. I don't know what to really make of that from Ange Postecoglou in his reaction there in the post-match. I mean, maybe clearly uncomfortable to want to criticise Vicario. I mean, Marlon, what's your takeaway? Because it was a moment to forget. And, you know what? He spoke ever so well, I thought, on the Sky Sports interview, actually, before the lead up to the game, talking about the fact that Spurs need to have a lot of responsibility individually from set pieces. But I think definitely for those fans that have been at the game, that are now watching this back, there is concern, I think, in general from our set pieces. And it'd be wrong for us to not want to address that. How concerned are you with Vicario from set pieces? Is that a worry for you, or do you feel we're just going through a bit of a hairy moment that we will see this through? Because I've got to just say again, for balance, made this tremendous save in the second half from Brentford forward, where, look, that's going in. It's an unbelievable save from Vicario. So we've seen the best and the worst of him in these 90 minutes. What's your summary on the Vicario at the moment, Marlon, for you?
So for set pieces, he's always been a worry for me. And I'll take you back to Coventry, right? Every corner that came in, Fraser Forster somehow, even though he had a bad game, if you actually look at the corners, he somehow came out for them and he was getting rid of them, punching them and everything. But Vicario is so slightly different. He's not controlling that narrative. So what ends up happening is he's never been good at this. This is his weak point. It always has been. So for me, if Ange's going to stick with Vicario, he needs to come up with a better solution for defending corners. And this is not just on Ange, it's on everyone in the coaching staff. We've dealt with them okay-ish, but the Arsenal goal last week just seemed to say, if we come up against a good team at set pieces, we're going to concede. But going on Vicario's incident today, just so everybody knows, right, the reason why VAR doesn't step in, right, is because if you notice with the third handball, right, it's outside the box. It's outside the box. It is handball, but it's a yellow card, right? And the reason why it's a yellow card is behind Damsgaard for a start, right? Porro is so close, and there's another player covering, which basically means it's basically like the last man rule. If there's a player covering, it's not deemed to be a red card, right? So there's going to be a lot of fans. Look, there's a lot of rival fans going, it should have been a red. It should have been a red. But actually, when you look at it back, he handles it once, drops it. The second time when it's about to drop to Damsgaard's feet, he's still in the box, he picks it out, and then it's the third one, right? But the third one's behind Damsgaard, which basically means it's not a goal scoring opportunity, right? And I think this is the bit that people are getting confused with. And I've watched it 3 times since, right? Because I had an argument with someone earlier, right? And I saw it and I thought, that's a yellow card. And that's the reason why he doesn't get sent off for it. But he's got to be a lot better at the moment. When the ball's at his feet or when he's catching, he's got to be more... a bit like Fraser Forster, but without, because the Fraser Forster's more commanding, right? But he's so slow at everything else that he does cause us problems. But Vicario, when it comes to shot stopping, he's one of the best in the league at it. And I am willing to go on record because those 2 saves he made after that incident were absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And that's what we know Vicario for. So at the end of the day, it's now on Ange to make a decision, like I said earlier. if he wants Vicario to be the number one, he just needs to come up with a different approach for defending set pieces. And this is even free kicks coming into the box. Vicario is not going to do that for you. So what do you do instead? Come up with a separate plan, and then we'll be able to cope with it. We're coping with it at the moment. Like, there's been some games this season, like Newcastle and Everton, where we were coping a lot better with it. But it's just Arsenal just kind of exposed that it's still a vulnerability there. If you put it in a certain area, we are going to get caught.
Yeah, and also I do appreciate it. A lot of comments are saying, well, what is Ange meant to say after the game? And I think that's maybe fair because Ange doesn't want to criticise him publicly. He'll know behind the scenes that, he's not going for his greatest spell in a Spurs shirt. And we have to hope that with the games coming, I mean, I'd say that I would probably continue to play Vicario because I think he needs as much game time as possible to try and eradicate it from his game. I mean, it's a really interesting one that, again, with more time, it'd be something to extensively debate. But look, we've won the game. Again, as Marlon said, he's made 2 incredible saves after that, where again, he's got no divine right to make those saves. And it could really be a different result if Vicario isn't there from a shot-stopping perspective. But again, we've got the win. We want to keep things upbeat as much as we can because Spurs have won the game and he's played his part in 2 magnificent saves to keep Spurs obviously ahead and go on and win the game. And look, Spurs again had their chances. Maddison breaking away, playing in Son with his slightly heavy touch, who fired wide from a tight angle. We had Basuma on for Bentancur, who had been excellent, really, and Sade replacing Yarmolenko for Brentford. Basuma booked within 2 minutes of entering the pitch for fouling Damsgaard, and we've touched upon it. Bentancur, really, as we said, we're hoping that ban isn't as bad as what is feared, but again, he's going to have to take the ref for that because of the nature of what's been said, and I think we can really argue about. The moment, I think, to kind of close the show on has to be James Maddison. Lovely moment for James, a player that we've all hoped would get back to that form that we've seen in the opening 10. And I think, Russ, to come over to you to start the James Maddison loving if we can here, that, you know what, it was a brilliant performance topped off by a lovely chip goal, brilliant Basuma tackle at one end, then Spurs race up the pitch. Romero sends Sonny away. He picks out Maddison, a delightful dink over the unrushing goalkeeper. I mean, this is the Maddison, as Marlon said, that we saw in the opening 10, Russ. The question is now, can he sustain it, Russ?
Well, look, we've got to hope that he can, Rick. I mean, he was man of the match today, wasn't he?
He was indeed. Yes, he was.
Yeah, I would have made Kulusevski man of the match. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. But Madders was much, 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 much better today. And he needed that goal, and he got it. So hopefully he's going to push on. But his work was tidy. He was trying those sort of lock-picking balls, which he can be so good at. I just like to see him shoot from outside the box occasionally a little bit more. But, he's a tremendous player. He's a great lad. And, you can go through bad form and come out of it the other side. And I don't think he's had quite the stick, for example, that Brennan Johnson's had, which I think, incidentally, has been disgusting, as people mentioned earlier. But people always come to him. I mean, look at David Beckham. I mean, he was public enemy number 1, wasn't he, after France 98 in the World Cup? Well, he hasn't done bad, has he, in his career since then? So as horrified as I am by some of the stuff and the criticism that these players get, hopefully to most of them it's water off a duck's back. And I think that James Maddison playing well for Spurs takes us to another level. So roll on Old Trafford and Madders doing his stuff again, because he frightens defences.
Yeah, he does indeed. And after the game of Maddison, I thought he was good. I thought the whole team was good. Everyone was really focused on making sure we dominated the game in the areas we wanted to dominate. We kind of knew that. We try and play that bit out. That's great for us because it gives the opportunities then to press real hard. And I thought all the midfielders really supported the front three well. They were going to press us when we had the ball. And I thought Vic and the back four managed really well in terms of that area of the pitch. And the midfielders also played that key role. So I think really everybody contributed to a really, really strong performance. We then saw those host of changes, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall and Mikey Moore coming on respectively for Solanke, Porro and Maddison. And I think what the guys have touched upon a lot here is the way Kulusevski really didn't lose the ball too much. You know, he was such an important player for Spurs overall in the game that he's becoming a constant driving force for Spurs. And Russ will know from his Swedish connections, of course, that there's such a excitement about that guy in his native country that, you know, he's really flying the flag there. So I think we have to hope that he's going to be that driving force for Spurs centrally and can really guide us definitely in these coming games. But I think as an overall win, couldn't have asked for more. I'll get the final thoughts from the guys we can to close it. Marlon, will come to you. It's an important win, but I know what you're going to say to me. It's only important now if we go and follow it up. Is that fair to say? So we've got Man United to come on the horizon before that carrier bag in the Europa League. It's games coming thick and fast. It's Thursday, Sunday now. We need to go on a run. Is that fair?
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. If we don't get a performance at Old Trafford next week, then today is just wasted. And that's literally what it is, right? We've got to get this away form sorted, and we need to fix it quick because we've got Brighton after that as well away, and we need these games. We need to be putting the chances away in these games going forward, and that's what the big key thing is. If we have a lot of possession, it's just about being ruthless, and that's all we need. So yeah, if we go to Old Trafford next week and just get rolled over, then today, like, carry a bag on Thursday. Look, I'm expecting us to I'm expecting changes, but I'm kind of, after what happened against Coventry, I'm not expecting as many, but I'm expecting the players to put in a reaction and actually, it's at home as well, so it makes it slightly easier. But yeah, go to Old Trafford next week, carry this on. We need to carry on this going forward until the next international break. So hopefully you can see that what will end up happening, it will start shifting back to Ange, as they say, right? And people will start believing in him again, right? That Arsenal game was just, everyone's just gone, oh, here we go again. But as Russ said, we can't be changing managers, right? Even last week, I literally just didn't trust Ange no more, right? I got to that point, right? But I don't want him sacked. There's a difference. And I think he can take us forward. It's between the board and Ange to get this right. And that's the whole key thing here. So yeah, go to Man United next week. Brimming with confidence. Let's go. Come on, you Spurs, they say.
Miles, always a pleasure. You don't know yet because I've not had a chance to send you the dates for the diary. You're on a lot more than you imagine in these next few months. So get your sleep in, be ready. And we can't wait to see you more, mates. We can't thank you enough. TJ, we're blessed you're going to be back with us twice in a week. You're kicking off our Europa League campaign. God help us to what's to come with that. So you never know what you're going to get with Spurs in Europe, do you really, these days? But, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on the panel. What's the key for you now in these coming weeks? Many will look at the word momentum being so important. Games are coming thick and fast. Is it now just about going on a run to try and, in a way, deviate talk away from the manager and put it solely on the squad and what we're trying to do here?
Yes, and I think the key word in that question and statement is squad. Everybody knows that when you're involved in European competitions and cup competitions, and of course vying to finish as high in the Premier League as you possibly can, reliance on a squad is absolutely fundamental. And so, of course, there will be changes on Thursday, as there should be. So it's really, really important that the lads who are called upon, whether they start or whether they're brought on from the bench, that they're ready to go, raring to go, and looking to prove a point. I thought Jed Spence looked fantastic when he came on against Coventry. He really looks like a young man with a point to prove. I've always liked him. Yes, people talk about his attitude and what have you. He seems to have put that completely behind him. And so I hope he starts. He did look disappointed as well when Archie Gray came on today to play those final few minutes. But that's okay. I'm sure he'll be given an opportunity on Thursday, and I want him to take it, along with all the other boys that we need. We need them to step up. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. And so that's terribly, terribly important that we're not just relying on the same few guys to kind of turn up and bail us out of a problem or make things happen. There's enough talent in that squad to get us over the line and get us on that run, which is really important. I did watch the United game today. They're just such a bad team. They're just so bad. And for all that money spent, and, I'm not a United fan, but can you imagine being, it's Manchester United, and to see them like so listless and so rudderless. So, I think we've got a really good chance again there. Listen, man, we're always a team that the big boys think, okay, well, it's Tottenham, we can turn this on and beat these guys. So let's go there knowing that they think that they're going to turn us over and prove them wrong. Because my goodness, we're a better team than they are. We've got a better manager than they do. We've got better cohesion than they do. We've got more goal scorers in our team than they do. We've got better defenders than they do. Vicario is a problem. I just want to shout out Marlon. Bro, that's such an insightful thing to say. Just to accept, man's never going to be able to come for a cross. So deal with that in another way. I just think that's such an insightful thing to say. And Rick, you said we saw the best of Vicario and the worst of Vicario in one game. I think that's Vicario. I think that he's always going to be, Flapper.
No.
Unbelievable save.
Listen,
People are saying that we swapped one amazing shot stopper for another. That isn't true because Vicario's passing today was under that one time that he nearly caused another goal. Was outstanding. I saw him play 10, 12, 30 to 40 yard pings perfectly. So big up this show. Lovely to be back on. Big up the listeners and the viewers. Much love, Tottenham family. Big up the panel. Love you guys. Thank you for having me back on. I will see you in a few days.
We love you too, mate. We love you too. I've got to say one thing, actually, just so everyone knows that everyone's telling TJ, this is not to break your heart, TJ, but if you don't know already, Spence is not in the Europa League squad, so we're not going to see him on Thursday.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
They didn't enter him, no?
Yeah, no, they didn't enter him. We opted for
turn it on.
This is to make us feel all better. We opted for Forster in there.
Oh my God. Banana Man.
That will cheer us all up. We didn't want to put Whiteman, of course, and Austin in there. So on that point, it's just TJ was saying that about Vicario. Reminds me of the fact that I grew up in the late 80s of Espen Bartson and Ian Walker. I mean, you couldn't get two more erratic goalkeepers if you tried. So I hope for our sake and the show's sake and the audience sake, we're not going to kill him off now with a Vicario goalkeeper like him. But he showed promise in the first 6 months. So if we can just try and sort out the coming for crosses, we should be fine. TJ, I echo the love back to my man. We love seeing you back on here. We're going to see you for our Europa League campaign on Thursday. Russ, we're going to close with you, mate. Absolute pleasure as always to have you on. There's always love for the insightful opinions I hear. Are we turning the corner, Russ, or are you going to tell me, wait and see, Ricky, wait and see, co-pilots?
We might be wait and see. We two huge games coming up, one in Europe, one at Old Trafford, win them both. And things are looking an awful lot better. Can I just give a quick mention as well to John George, who's asked my opinion on the boxing tonight at Wembley. I am a huge fan of Daniel Dubois and have been since he started out. AJ against Dubois tonight. I think the purse is so big if AJ wins for the next fight. I've got a feeling that AJ is going to win, but I wouldn't be disappointed if Daniel won.
There you go.
At all.
That's why we're on here. We cover all sports. Anything you want, we'll cover it. We'll get Russ to cover you 24/7. We will try. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure as ever being on with you, the boys, and talking to everybody on YouTube and everyone who's listening. Fabulous.
I know. Again, I've got to say, amazing support. We've got an announcement bringing you Monday that we're very excited to share with you. Some big news on Monday dropping your way about last one on Spurs and what you amazing people are doing for us. We love you out there. But look, you're going to see him a lot more to come. We've got, again, an amazing panel, amazing audience. Thank you so much. The wonderful broadcast extraordinaire, Russ Williams, actor TJ Ramini, and Marlon from the Spurs Kings sees us off on back-to-back wins for Tottenham. Listen, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend from Russ, from TJ, from Marlon, myself. Take care. Keep the faith. And as always, come on, you Spurs!
Spurs!